Right friends, welcome back to newspaper editorials discussion. This is 15th March and still the newspaper editorial pages are dominated by election news and views and analysis, and today we are going to deliberate on 4 issues, and in fact one editorial is there on Scotland issue, but Scotland we discussed in detail yesterday. So, please view that, and I am not going to take up Scotland today. And the first issue is with regard to on computing ability, rural India is lost in the woods. This is the analysis based on National Sample Survey Office data. Here you should not forget about 2 organizations. These 2 are under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation has got 2 important offices. One is National Sample Survey Office. This basically undertakes a household survey with regard to various socio-economic indicators. Various socio-economic indicators are basically decided based on National Sample Survey Office data. It undertakes household data. Then Central Statistics Office, all of you are familiar with this, which releases Consumer Price Index. At the same time, GDP figures are also released along with IIP statistics. So, this is Central Statistics Office. So, these 2 are with Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, and the present news item is with regard to the analysis of one particular survey undertook by National Sample Survey Office. So, as per the National Sample Survey Office, some statistics are revealed, because this assumed significance as government is pushing for more and more digital transactions nowadays. So, when you look at digital transactions, the real challenge is with regard to digital literacy. This digital literacy among the rural people is too low as per this analysis. Then second challenge as far as digital transactions concerned is with regard to the connectivity challenges in rural areas. Then third important aspect is in most of the rural areas, this business correspondence credibility is also little bit doubtful. That means the faith of the rural people on business correspondence at some places is another problem. So, these are all the challenges when you look at digital transactions across the country. And another most important challenge is cyber security. Cyber security is a vast subject. We will deal it in separate capsule. So, these are all the challenges, and one such challenge is with regard to the digital literacy, which is evident from this article here. In India, just 8.8% of the rural population have computing ability. If you look at whole India as a whole, 8.8% of rural population have computing ability, but in urban areas it is around 30%. So, rural areas if you see, it is just 9%. And what is the meaning of computing ability? Computing ability is nothing but user's ability to operate either a desktop, laptop, smartphone. So, any of these electronic gadgets must be operated, then only people can be told as having this computing ability. So, in rural areas just 9%, in urban areas at 30%, but there are wide variations when you look at the states. In states like Kerala, Delhi, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, you can say except Delhi, these Delhi and surrounding areas, southern states, western states, they are much ahead as far as rural computing ability is concerned. But the biggest problem in our country is states like Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Orissa. In all these states, the computing ability of rural people is quite low. This is the biggest challenge for improving the digital transactions in our country. So, if you look at rural digital literacy, or you can say rural computing ability, Chhattisgarh is just 3% in rural areas, whereas Kerala is topmost at 32% rural computing ability. So, it is the lowest in tribal population. So, this statement, or you can say this analysis, throws a lot of light into the challenges which we are going to face for propagating digital transactions across the country. So, the immediate task of the government is to increase the level of digital literacy or computing ability, right. We leave this here and we look at the next one, that is prejudice makes no distinction. Recently, the attacks on Indian Americans are on increase. So, this article throws some light on exactly what about the statistics of Indians in America, then at present what they are doing, and third issue is what needs to be done. So, if you look at the statistical information before going ahead, this is the victory of Donald Trump, where these people voted for Donald Trump, rich and elite people voted for Clinton. So, this is the present day story of America, and important information about Indian Americans. Here Indian Americans constitute around 3 million, or you can say 30 lakhs. What is the population of America? America population is 32 crore around. So, Indian population is around 1% of total population, and 87% of them were foreign born. That means most of them were born in our country. The highest per capita income, there the Indian Americans per capita income is around $88,000 against the American income of $50,000. America as a whole, the average per capita income was $50,000, but if you look at the Indian Americans, it is $88,000. You can say almost double. If you look at the higher education, higher level of education, as 70% of the people about 25 years of age are graduated. If you look at the Indian population, and it is 2.5 times more than the figure for overall population. Now, what are the present day problems? The present day problems are, normally the immigrants from India did not engage in the local issues of civil rights, political participation or racism, and normally most of the Indians are attached with the country of origin, that is India, going back and forth. As per this author, in fact, Indian Americans are not involving in the real issues of America. They are still attached with India, going back and forth, and they are not contributing to the causes in America. They are still looking at local causes in India. So, like other immigrants, Indians also nostalgically attached with India, and some Indians feel that the USA is just like an adopted country. So, this is one reason for this racial, some sort of attacks which are taking place in recent times. So, some of the countries' immigrants there are also behaving like Indians. So, some of the countries are different. So, you cannot exactly call like other immigrants. Probably this is keeping in view some of the immigrants from other countries just like India, but some of the immigrants are integrated into the ethos of America. So, what needs to be done? As per this article, immigrants must strengthen their roots in America. They should engage enough in the American issues of the day, and Indian Americans should join hands with all Americans who suffer from racial, ethnic or social prejudice. They may be Muslims, Arabs, then African Americans, Latinos or LGBT community. So, the author says Indians must be integrated with America, both emotionally also. So, that is the need of the hour. Otherwise, some of the Indians are behaving like America is their adopted country, and they are looking at the various causes of India, and they are going and forth, and just like seeing America as adopted country. So, the crux of the matter is, please integrate with American ethos. when you are in America, please behave like American, please integrate with the psyche of American. So, the need of the hour is to integrate with the lives of Indians, to integrate the lives of Indians with the life of America, right. Third item, this is one interview. This interview is with regard to the issue Indian Prime Minister Modi must visit US as early as possible, and that will have a positive impact as per this interview, and the salient points of the interview I am touching. Before that, as a student, you must have clear understanding of what is the saga of India-US relations for the past 15 years. Almost the relations started from the era of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. From Atal Bihari Vajpayee up to Narendra Modi, what are the saga of various relations with United States of America? Here, 3-4 important aspects I would like to tell you from examination perspective also. This is very important. 3-4 important aspects are in the year 2005. In the year 2005, in fact, prior to that one agreement was signed when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister. So, that agreement may not be that important, but real relations were started from 2005 with the signing of Defence Framework Agreement. Prior to that, the foundation was laid during Atal Bihari Vajpayee's time, and the first agreement, that is a Defence Framework Agreement, was signed in 2005. So, what is the meaning of this? The meaning is it loosens strict controls that existed for transfer of excluded categories of technologies in defense. That technology transfer, the origin is, that means excluded categories of technologies were started with Defence Framework Agreement signed in 2005. And another landmark agreement is Defence Technology and Trade Initiative. Defence Technology and Trade Initiative, this was launched in 2012. What is the purpose of this? The purpose of this agreement is Indian companies in our country, Indian companies can collaborate with US partners. So, Indian companies and US companies can collaborate for defense co-production. That was made possible with Defence Technology and Trade Initiative. Then the next important aspect is India was declared, USA declared India as a major defense partner in 2016. In 2016, two important aspects. One is India was declared as a major defense partner to USA. What does it signify? It signifies that India can have access to technologies just like USA's close allies such as NATO countries can have. So, India can have access to USA just like its close allies are having access with USA. So, this was made possible because of the declaration of major defense partner. This is third important aspect. Then fourth milestone, you can say some critics are also there, but the fourth milestone you can say, that is LEMO, Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement. Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement. This is one of the three foundational agreements, and what is the purpose of this agreement? Purpose is both the militaries, Indian military can use US military bases and US military can use Indian military bases. So, they can use, they cannot establish anything, but they can use this for their purpose. So, here the meaning is militaries of both the countries can use each other's assets and bases. They cannot establish a military base, but for their purposes Indian military base can be used by USA, USA military base can be used by India. That is the meaning of Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement. Then two more foundational agreements are in line. We are not sure after the victory of Donald Trump, So, this logistics exchange memorandum of agreement, this was already signed. So, here militaries can share each other's facilities, and remaining agreements we are not sure, they are SISMO and BECA, right. So, this is all about India-USA relations. Now, let us come back to the views of the author. There are 7-8 points. The first point is India-US relations are much stronger and broad based in the past decade. To explain this point, I have told you, right friends, there was some break and I would like to continue from here. In fact, the views of the author, we were struck up at the views of the author, and the point number 1, this is India-US relations are much stronger and broad based in the past decade, and India and USA enjoy bipartisan consensus. Bipartisan consensus means it is having the support of both the parties, both Republican as well as Democratic Party, both support Indian relations with USA, and in spite of the current problems, USA is likely to remain the foremost economic and military power in the world, and USA is a source of cutting edge technological innovation. Cutting edge technological innovation, please look into this. This Hyperloop, this is coming up in recent times. Hyperloop means high speed transportation network from one place to other place, and SpaceX is now looking at reusable rockets. So, this type of cutting edge technologies are coming up only in America. Then if you look at the second point, this is the suspension of premium H1B visas may be temporary, and India should explain that India-USA relationship as far as IT services is concerned is beneficial to both the countries, and India is a growing market for US products and services, especially for defense hardware and technology. So, Indian software companies not only explaining the position to USA, but also at the same time they should also diversify, moving away from heavy dependence on United States of America. Then the third point is there is a general anti-immigration sentiment unleashed by the government itself in USA, but the ordinary American citizens and local communities coming in support of the victims. So, one should not forget that there is an anti-immigrant sentiment sweeping across the world. So, the author says that the ideal situation would be the availability of employment opportunities to all the strata of the society within our country itself, so that there will be less pressure to seek jobs abroad. There are some problems, and the crux of the article is there are some problems, and India should try to look at these problems by explaining them in proper perspective. Not only that, India should also look at alternatives. Then the fourth point is India's objective should be to develop and expand a diversified set of relations with all major powers. So, India should look at diversified set of relations with all major powers and with countries in the developing world as far as foreign policy is concerned. Not only restricting our foreign policy to one particular country, we should look at diversified relations with several countries. And if some protectionist tendencies are visible in some sectors of United States of America, India can still depend on expanding trade and investment in some other sectors. Then we have concluded this comprehensive economic partnership agreement with Japan and South Korea, and we also have free trade agreement with ASEAN. And now the point here is we should think about diversifying our activities. Then with Russia, we are expanding our trade, particularly in the energy field, because we are purchasing some energy fields in Russia. And the author also says India is no more a priority country for Russia in the commercial field. Its focus is China and Europe. If you look at the fifth point, if the global footprint of USA and its western allies is reduced, it may create space for other major powers to play a bigger role. That means if USA and its Western allies reduce its global footprint further, or its space, that means its influence in various parts of the world, then other countries may take that role. So, the crux of the article is we have to go in a diversified way. USA is also important, but please look at other options also. Don't ignore the things, whatever are happening in front of our eyes. Already we are seeing Russian activism in West Asia as well as Chinese initiatives in Afghanistan issue. So, if China is able to contribute to peace in Afghanistan and is able to restrain Pakistani meddling, it should be welcomed. So, the world is not anyone's turf. Now, there are several global players, and don't blindly go with one particular aspect. So, look at all the aspects with open mind. Then the next point is the future of India-China relations will be determined by how the two countries handle several bilateral issues. The bilateral issues are mostly border issues. At the same time, please strengthen the borders. That means we should strengthen our border defenses and capabilities so as to foil any aggressive attempt by China on our borders. Then the next point is to confront Chinese challenge in trade, we have to strengthen ourselves. In fact, our industry must develop competitiveness. Here, the competitiveness of Indian goods and services, developing a modern infrastructure and improving trade practice and supporting the facilities must be the paradigm shift. Instead of developing our own competitiveness, or you can say global competitiveness, we are blaming China for the trade gap. So, it is not correct. We should develop our global competitiveness. Then the next point is, if Trump considers jihadi terrorism a threat, if Trump considers jihadi terrorism as a threat, then India will also be benefited. Ultimately, it will put pressure on countries like Pakistan. So, some recent measures announced by Pakistan, including the arrest of lead chief, or in response to the apprehension of Pakistan being targeted on the issue of terrorism. So, here please be with open mind. Don't close any options. On one side, China is coming up with economic clout, then Russia is trying to have influence in West Asian countries. Recently, the actions of Russia on Syria support this viewpoint, and American influence on some of the West Asian countries may reduce in near future, and because of OBOR policy, China's influence may increase in Asia Pacific region. So, because of all these things, because of OBOR, China's influence may increase in not only Asia, Europe and Africa, and because of its strategic alignments, its influence will increase in Asia Pacific region. So, what I mean to convey is, now the world is wide open, don't restrict yourself, but the essence of the article is, please continue the good work done with United States of America. Already we have very good relation with United States of America, please continue that, right. Then the next one is not so accessible after all. This article is with regard to the recent guidelines with regard to persons with disabilities. Persons with disabilities bill was passed last year, and now it became an act, and this Persons with Disabilities Act, some guidelines were published, and that is not in the format accessible to visually impaired persons. So, in this context, though the issue mentioned in this article is not that important, in this context I would like to tell you about 4 important aspects as far as persons with disabilities are concerned. So, please do not forget. This is the first issue. I am going to tell you 4 issues as far as persons with disabilities is concerned, and these 4 issues are very important when you look at examination perspective. The first one is the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. In fact, this was passed last year, it became an act, and it replaced existing Persons with Disabilities Act of 1995. Here number of disabilities increased from 7 to 21, with the central government having the power to increase or to add more types of disabilities. So, this is one important development in 2016. If you look at the aspect of examinations, then here some of the disabilities added with the specific names. Acid attack victims was added, then speech and language disability was added, then specific learning disability was added, then hemophilia, thalassemia, then intellectual disability, autism spectrum disorder, cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy. These are all added, with some newly, some with the specific names. So, total types of disabilities increased from 7 to 21 as per Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act of 2016, and additional features: speech and language disability, specific learning disability were added for the first time. As I have already told you, acid attack victims were included, and at the same time 3 blood disorders, one is thalassemia, hemophilia, sickle cell disease. These were identified as new categories. Then other aspects is every child with disability between the age group of 6 to 18 years shall have the right to free education. That is one aspect, and the other one is stress has been given to ensure accessibility in public buildings, and for that second program is there. I will come to that. Then another important aspect is reservation in government establishments increased from 3% to 4%. This is major change as per this Persons with Disabilities Act of 2016, right. So, we discussed about Persons with Disabilities Act. Second point, please do not forget, Accessible India campaign. This is Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan. The main purpose of Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan is basically to make public buildings accessible to the persons with disabilities. Certain benchmarks are given, certain targets are given, especially in railways, when to make A class stations disabled friendly, when to make B class stations disabled friendly, like that for public buildings. Under this Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan, this buildings will be made this friendly to the disabled people. So, the basic purpose of Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan or Accessible India campaign is to make public buildings accessible to the people with disabilities. So, stress has been given to ensure accessibility to public buildings in a prescribed time frame. So, basically this is in fact as per this Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 include both government and private buildings also. So, please do not forget, this Accessible India campaign is with regard to making the buildings accessible for the persons with disabilities. Third program, please do not forget, this is Sugamya Pustakalaya. This Sugamya Pustakalaya is India's largest online library for blind and print disabled. So, for the visually impaired people, the third program of the government is Sugamya Pustakalaya. So, Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, do not forget. The second one is India, this is Accessible India campaign or Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan. Then third one is Sugamya Pustakalaya, this is India's largest online library for blind and print disabled, or you can say visually impaired. Then fourth treaty, you should not forget, this is the Marrakesh Treaty. This is the global treaty. This Marrakesh Treaty, this is visually impaired persons treaty. This came into force last year September 30. So, Marrakesh Treaty, in fact this is monitored by World Intellectual Property Organization. This is the global treaty. India is the first signatory to this treaty, please do not forget. So, this is the treaty for the people with visual impairments, and it creates a framework for persons who are blind and visually impaired to enjoy access to various literacy works. then it facilitates equal and inclusive way of bringing blind visually impaired people to the mainstream. And at the same time, please do not forget, it was adopted in 2013, but finally came into force on September 30, 2016, and this was hosted by Kingdom of Morocco in Marrakesh. Marrakesh, please look into this picture. Marrakesh is in Morocco, and this Marrakesh Treaty is basically with regard to the Impaired Persons Treaty. So, 75 WIPO member states signed the treaty. India was the first country to ratify it in 2014, and Canada was the 20th country, and this came into force on 30 September 2016. So, main points is contracting parties, that means the countries should make national laws that permit reproduction, distribution and making available published works in accessible formats such as Braille, audio, large font. So, all these things are as per this Marrakesh Treaty. So, it also provides for the exchange of accessible format works across the borders by organizations that serve the people who are blind, visually impaired and print disabled. So, this is about Marrakesh Treaty, and this Marrakesh Treaty also administers, leads an alliance of private and public partners known as Accessible Books Consortium. So, this Marrakesh Treaty also administers, or you can say leads, an alliance of private and public partners known as Accessible Books Consortium. And the point here is this Sugamya Pustakalaya should also integrate with this Accessible Books Consortium, right. So, 4 things please do not forget: Persons with Disabilities Act of 2016, second one is Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan, third one is Sugamya Pustakalaya, fourth one is WIPO's Marrakesh Treaty for the visually impaired people. So, these 4 things we recollected today because of one article in The Hindu, and that does not have much significance, but what adds significance is learning about these 4 things today. Right friends, with this we came to the end of today's editorial discussion, and sorry for the interruption of some 1 or 2 minutes in between, and please remember, whenever any interruption is there for 1 or 2 minutes, we will get back to you within 1 or 2 minutes. So, please remember that, right. So, once again we express our apologies for the intermission or breakage in between in the live session. So, have a nice day. Please do join at 12 o'clock noon. Have a nice day. Thank you.